Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy, and Pope Francis passed away.
Yes, we've been talking about it quite a bit, but now it's finally happened, and it might seem like we might enter the movie conclave, but in real life now.
Yeah, there's some pretty scandalous events that may happen in the conclave. We'll talk about those today.
Yes.
As well as J.D. Vance. Did he kill the Pope?
Did he end the life of the Pope?
Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
No, we can't say that in the first few seconds.
at least we're streaming on Rumble as well. So if YouTube bans us,
yes, that's true.
we also got a story about Justin Bieber, Anne Hathaway, and Meghan Markle for the cultural section. Before we go over to RUMBLE, why don't you tell them what that is in Spanish? Because we had some questions.
Okay. RUMBLE es una plataforma de video alternativa a YouTube que deja más para la libertad de expresión que lo que hace YouTube, para no tener que andar diciendo como, ay, no se puede decir, hay que decir desvivir en vez de, etcétera. Entonces, para discutir cosas más pesadas o discutir temas más políticos, pues es mejor irnos para allá para poder hablar libremente, en especial porque Guy se le van varias palabras que no puede decir.
Okay, let's go into it. I gotta start recording everything, so switch cameras and then I'll get up.
Yes. Así es, buenas noches. Ya había hecho un video sobre esto, pero pues ahora sí ya se fue el Papa Francisco y vamos a hablar sobre eso. Bueno, yo voy a hablar sobre eso primero en español y luego pues también en inglés. Y empecemos. Pues sí, lamentablemente para muchas personas falleció el Papa Francisco el día de hoy, 21 de abril, es lunes, y hay varias opiniones encontradas. Como siempre digo, y voy a seguir diciendo, yo no soy religiosa de ningún tipo, pero me interesa bastante pues cómo afectan la religión al mundo, a la sociedad, y la importancia que tiene para no irnos con otras religiones inventadas o más nuevas, por ejemplo, ideologías que ahora están permeando la sociedad en general, pero en especial sociedades del oeste, donde se han perdido las religiones tradicionales bastante. Entonces, hablemos sobre qué significa ahora que el Papa Francisco ha fallecido, qué podría pasar ahora que pues no está con nosotros, que se va a llevar a cabo el cónclave, que es cuando se reúnen todos los cardenales para elegir a un nuevo papa, y lo vimos recientemente en la película Cónclave, de la cual también hablé y hice un video que está en el canal. Pero también hablé sobre el Papa Francisco y cómo había sido una figura bastante controversial para la Iglesia Católica, en especial porque trajo varias ideas y varias formas de ver al mundo católico y religioso que pues normalmente no eran antes tan aceptadas, y también decidió hacer varios cambios ideológicos dentro de la Iglesia. Muchos de acuerdo con ellos, pero muchos otros también pues no tan de acuerdo. Entonces, ahora sí hablemos sobre, pues número 1, falleció el Papa Francisco, parece que falleció tras un derrame cerebral, que pues ya tenía varias complicaciones de salud, de las cuales también hablé en ese mismo video, y a lo largo de su vida tuvo varios pues problemas de salud, en especial con sus pulmones. Le tuvieron que quitar la parte superior de uno de sus pulmones porque tuvo una neumonía que se convirtió en algo aún más peligroso. Y a lo largo de su carrera, fue, por ejemplo, el primer papa jesuita en la historia de la Iglesia Católica. Y hay varios, obviamente, rumores y cosas sobre qué fue lo que lo llevó al poder. También cuando el papa anterior decidió bajarse del poder en vez de pues esperar a que la naturaleza tomara su curso, y entró el Papa Francisco, que se llamaba Jorge Mario Bergoglio. Nació en Argentina, también fue el primer papa de América, latinoamericano, y hubieron varias preguntas sobre cómo ascendió al poder, qué iba a pasar ahora que estaba un papa jesuita en el poder. Y voy a admitir, no me sé completamente todas las historias y todos los rumores que hay por ahí, pero sí hay un rumor de qué va a pasar ahora que, pues, bajo uno de los, digamos, papas más liberales, por así decirlo, que ha tenido la Iglesia Católica, con varias ideas que normalmente no van, por ejemplo, con la ley canónica de la Iglesia, ni con lo que varios de los que siguen a que son fieles a la Iglesia Católica querían ver, por ejemplo, quitar la misa en latín, que no fue solamente su idea, pero también era algo que impulsaba para hacer la Iglesia más accesible a más personas. Entonces, yo creo que hay varios sentimientos encontrados por allá afuera, en especial ahora que pues, pasaron varios meses en donde se parecía que ya se iba a ir el Papa Francisco y pues había logrado aferrarse a la vida, por así decirlo, pero ahora todos estos planes que varios sectores, digamos, de la Iglesia Católica o varios personas con diferentes posturas ideológicas dentro de la Iglesia Católica, cardenales en especial, habían empezado a tratar de figurar a ver quién iba a ser el nuevo. Ahora toda esta batalla, pues, por la Iglesia Católica empieza otra vez con un cónclave en donde también cabe mencionar que el Papa, antes de pasar a mejor vida, el Papa Francisco había elegido, digamos, a varios cardenales más de los que normalmente había. Normalmente son entre más o menos 120, hay, me parece 136 o 137 ahora que van a entrar al cónclave. Y dentro de todos esos, 2/3 habían sido seleccionados o impulsados por el Papa Francisco. Entonces, ¿qué quiere decir esto para los que quieren mantener la Iglesia Católica y regresarla a las raíces fundamentales y más tradicionales y conservadoras de la Iglesia, y los que quieren modernizar, por así decirlo, o como varios les han llamado, a los globalistas dentro de la Iglesia Católica, de los cuales el Papa Francisco había sido, pues, calificado como uno de ellos, lo diré así, para no ofender más. Y curiosamente también, ya, bueno, tenemos que esperar a ver qué pasa en el cónclave, cuánto se tardan en sacar humo blanco, y sobre todas las peleas, batallas internas, pues obviamente no vamos a saber, pero en cuanto salga uno nuevo, aunque en cuanto haya un papa nuevo, pues sabremos realmente qué estaba pasando allá adentro y en qué terminará toda, pues ahora sí, el siguiente legado de la Iglesia Católica, y que para muchos es muy importante todavía. Y curiosamente también el día de hoy, el fundador y globalista número 1, el presidente del Foro de Davos o del Foro Económico Mundial, espérenme que no se ve, renunció a la presidencia de la organización, y muchos están diciendo que es interesante que hayan pasado estos dos sucesos y pues que ahora empezamos todos a cuestionar qué va a pasar con todos estos planes globalistas realmente que tenían pues varias de estas personas que ahora están dejando el poder, empezando con, por ejemplo, Estados Unidos, ahora que entró Donald Trump. Ahora también se está yendo el presidente Klaus Schwab del Foro Económico Mundial, donde pues todas estas élites se juntaban en este foro a pensar en básicamente cómo hacer la vida más molesta para todo el mundo. Ahí por ejemplo, empezaron con ideas sobre todos estos impuestos de emisiones de carbono, de empezar a tener casas más chiquitas o pods en vez de tener propiedad privada. Tenían ideas bastante interesantes, y este personaje en especial, Klaus Schwab, si alguien ha leído alguna de las cosas que ha escrito o alguno de los libros que ha escrito, pues sabe más o menos cuáles eran sus intenciones para el mundo. Básicamente tratar de que estén los de hasta arriba y las élites y que ellos decidan qué es lo mejor para todos los demás, y obviamente quitándole libertades a la gran mayoría de los ciudadanos del mundo. Y ahí es donde también se juntaban muchos de los políticos y figuras políticas, por ejemplo, como Justin Trudeau de Canadá, Joe Biden había sido invitado varias veces, y demás gente con poder que quería tratar de hacer el mundo pues más global, y de ahí viene el término globalista. Y pues hace falta ver qué va a pasar con Davos, quién va a subir al poder ahora. Rápidamente leo. El fundador del Foro Económico Mundial, Klaus Schwab, dimitió de la presidencia de la organización, conocida por la cita anual de la élite mundial, en la estación de esquí suiza de Davos. Y dijo: al ingresar en mi año 88, decidí dimitir como presidente y miembro del Consejo de Administración con efecto inmediato, escribió Schwab en un comunicado difundido este lunes. Y ahí también vemos al Papa Francisco en uno de sus últimos recorridos por el Vaticano. Y dice: el Consejo de la Administración reconoció los logros excepcionales del presidente y fundador del Foro Económico Mundial, Klaus Schwab, y expresó su gratitud por los 55 años de incansable liderazgo. Klaus Schwab pues realmente fue la figura que no solo fundó, pero impulsó el Foro Económico Mundial hasta donde llegó y le hizo que tuviera la importancia que tiene hoy en día, y las decisiones que se toman ahí terminan siendo decisiones que impactan al resto del mundo, en especial a varios países del oeste, pero varios de las personas ahí nunca han sido electas por los gobiernos que terminan impulsando ideas que se cuecen pues ahí adentro. Y rápidamente quería hablar sobre, ahora que parece que están bajando varios del poder, a los que se les decía, por ejemplo, globalistas, varios, digamos, por ejemplo, una vez más Estados Unidos, ahora que entró Donald Trump, en Europa también han habido varias elecciones, varias de las cuales también, o potenciales elecciones, donde varios personajes han empezado a tener más impulso por parte del público, que ya está harto de todas las políticas globalistas que se habían estado dando durante años, ahora sí, por lo menos 20 años. Y un ejemplo sería Marine Le Pen, a quien ahora están tratando, lograron que no pueda ser parte de las elecciones en Francia cuando sucedan. Y una de las últimas esperanzas que quedan para pues todo esta sopa de villanos globalistas, digámosles, es Mark Carney en Canadá, quien no solo es una figura que reemplazó a Justin Trudeau cuando también renunció hace unos meses, pero que como no electo, está ahora como primer ministro de Canadá, y en estas elecciones que finalizan el 28 de abril, esta semana, y se ve que puede él ser el siguiente primer ministro, ahora sí electo. Lo digo así porque ya sabrán por qué. Y como parte de los liberales, ahora sí no va a ser una figura nada más que está puesta ahí por encimita y donde hay gente atrás que realmente controlan todo. Él realmente es un poco más inteligente que Justin Trudeau, lamentablemente, porque durante varios años él fue de esas figuras que estuvieron atrás de Justin Trudeau, impulsando cosas como, una vez más, los impuestos por emisiones de carbono, hasta para personas que no emiten carbono, todos lo tienen que pagar en Canadá, y con varias otras ideas locas sobre el medio ambiente. Y tengo un video también sobre este personaje en el canal, mientras él y sus compañías pues invierten en petróleo, gas, etcétera, fuera del país, pero que quieren que Canadá continúe sin usar sus recursos naturales, que son de las pocas cosas que podrían sacar a Canadá de la deuda gigante que tiene, y de varios otros problemas, como los problemas con el sector de salud, y ya hablaré pronto sobre esto, porque las elecciones canadienses son más importantes, yo creo, de lo que varias personas creen, porque Mark Carney es de las últimas figuras que todavía mantienen esta postura hiperglobalista y con ideas bastante locas que podrían seguir afectando no solo a Canadá ni a Estados Unidos, pero al mundo en general. Entonces, si él termina llegando al poder, que parece, en las encuestas, que varias son bastante manipuladas, parece él seguir teniendo el liderazgo sobre ellas. Pero por ahora, de todas maneras, mandar pues lo mejor al Papa Francisco y esperar a ver qué pasa con el cónclave, cuánto se tardan y qué sale por ahí. A veces salen algunos rumores, quién sabe si ciertos o no, pero todavía quedan varios rumores que nunca fueron realmente desmentidos por la Iglesia Católica sobre cuando el Papa Francisco accedió al poder la primera vez. Entonces, bueno, la primera y última vez. Entonces, pues estaremos al pendiente y si les interesa saber un poco más sobre el Papa Francisco, hay un video también en el canal y un video sobre Mark Carney, que es lo último básicamente que amenaza al mundo en esta semana. Ok, rápidamente voy a leer si hay comentarios. Traté de grabar esa sección, sé que no me salió perfecto, pero estoy regresando ahora sí con la energía y con el entusiasmo y también estoy grabando por fin el video de por qué nos fuimos de Canadá esta vez en español, justamente porque ahora que son las elecciones quiero que la gente entienda que Canadá no es este paraíso utópico que nos pintan en las fotos y videos que vemos normalmente del Departamento de Turismo por parte de Canadá. Ahora sí leo los comentarios. Walker dice, gracias por estar por acá, Walker dice, creo que deberíamos de cambiar la vista cinemática. Ahorita le digo.
No.
Walker dice, el peor papa del mundo, exactamente, el peor papa en la historia de los papas, el primer papa jesuita también, y a través de un coup d'état. Exactamente, así es como accedió al poder. Rafa dice, yo siempre fui crítico de Francisco, pero una realidad es que se exageraba mucho lo que decía. Sí fue algo liberal, pero su peor error fue su mala comunicación. Y otra vez, hay más de dos campos que opinan sobre el Papa Francisco. Uno que dice que era hiperliberal, tendencias marxistas también de toda esta reforma de liberación de la iglesia que hubo en América Latina. Y las tendencias pues marxistas que tenían varias de las varias de los sectores de la Iglesia Católica dentro de América Latina, que también ayudaron a que varios de la izquierda subieran al poder, pero hay otro campo que dice que era más conservador de lo que parece, y algo que le parece a mucha gente raro, digamos, es que fue el primer papa jesuita y lo que los jesuitas normalmente tratan de impulsar. Pero hasta ahí me quedo porque si no voy a empezar a decir cosas sobre las que, o sea, sí sé, pero no a fondo, entonces nada más no quiero seguir diciendo cosas. Rafa dice, por cierto, en paz descanse y ojalá el siguiente esté al nivel de Pío X. En paz descanse. Ay, se me olvidó decir eso en el video. Bueno, ahí lo meto al final. Y Walker dice, ojalá el que venga sea menos como Benedicto XVI. También se me olvidó decir Benedicto XVI, se me fue el nombre cuando dije el papa anterior, pero pues ya veremos quién sube. Una vez más parece que varios de los cardenales que están metidos en el cónclave, que van a estar metidos en el cónclave, son electos específicamente, fueron subidos a estatus de cardenal específicamente por el Papa Francisco, entonces quién sabe ahora sí que viene. Y Rafa dice, les recomiendo el en vivo de hoy de Agustín Laje, explica muy bien el papado de Francisco, y yo tampoco me quería meter muy a fondo porque una vez más yo no soy religiosa para nada, y mientras sí me sé su historia y varias de las controversias, no quiero nada más salir a decirlas como si fueran hechos, porque trato de mantener mi opinión aparte de la noticia de veras. Entonces, sí, gracias. Voy a ver a Agustín. Me gusta ver a Agustín, nada más que a veces cuando hace sus en vivos, pues estamos acá grabando o preparando, entonces no siempre alcanzo a verlo, pero ahora sí vámonos con la sección en inglés. Gracias por estar por acá en la sección en español y por aguantarme esta semana pasada donde nada más no se me quitaba lo que sea que tenía. Todavía no se me quita al 100%, pero ya como que la energía está regresando. Entonces, ahora sí vámonos con la sección en inglés. Gracias por estar por acá en la sección en español y ahorita le leo los comentarios a Guy, porque creo que tienes razón sobre eso. Okay.
Oh, no, that's
Walker.
the wrong one.
No, Walker said...
I don't care what Walker said.
Hold on.
I'm trying something new.
He said we should...
Because Rumble doesn't like it.
Yes.
I've seen that.
Okay.
But I got to try the new views so I can edit things later on.
Does anybody like this view? No.
Natalia, just because you don't like
this
something.
This is dizzy, and why are we doubled?
Because Natalie. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, what were you talking about there? The Pope and the globalists?
I'm trying to, quickly make a fast connection about it, so yes.
That's the conversation we had the other day, I think.
Yes.
Okay,
Probably.
so what'd you say about the Pope anyway?
well, that he passed away. I forgot to send my condolences, but I said he's in a better place and that he was a very controversial figure. Let me switch this. That he was a very controversial figure and that, yeah.
Okay, well, we did do a video on the Pope the other day, but we tried to, we knew he was in bad health and he may pass away, so we tried not to be too hard on him. Mm-hmm. But we have a few clips today, and maybe let's talk about Trump is going to attend the Pope's funeral. President Trump also had signed an executive order today to put all the flags at half mast for Pope Francis's passing.
And J.D. Vance was just over there. He had a quick audience with him. And
it was the last public attendance audience the Pope had.
Yeah, so a lot of people are speculating J.D. Vance maybe had something to do with it. Of course not. But it is interesting that he was the last person to see him.
Okay, maybe let's go to a clip real quick. I'm going to let Alex Jones say it because he says it a lot better than I do, and he has some historical references. I put your thing right there.
So what do I do?
Oh, you just press to my screen. Switch it. Perfect.
Two huge events happened today. Pope Francis died, and Klaus Schwab completely resigned from the WEF. Both of these are massive events. Now, it's not nice to talk bad about the dead, but the facts are Pope Francis was the first Jesuit pope. When they set up the Jesuits over 500 years ago to police the Catholic Church, it was expressly against the law, canon law, to have one be a pope. Because you can't have the Praetorian Guard that supposedly protect the faith of Jesus, then be the ones that would obviously put their guy in. But that happened.
So this is the pretty interesting history Alex Jones is going over, and Jesuit priests weren't supposed to be popes. So that's pretty interesting.
According to him.
According to canon law.
That he's saying.
Okay.
What globalists had to do was get control of the Jesuits, which they totally turned into a huge leftist, basically communist arm in the last 100 years. Then they had control of the Catholic Church. Like every other major institution has been taken over by the globalists. We're now in the process of humanity awakening and taking back the institutions all over the world. Catholics are great people. That's why the globalists have been targeting traditional Catholics, trying to outlaw them and say they're criminals. But if you really want to take over the different large sects of Christianity, you've got to take over the leadership of it. So his death, when he promoted open borders and one world religion and just criticized President Trump and other populist leaders.
And he was the most liberal pope to take office, so it's going to be interesting what happens with this next conclave. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Also, what I was saying was that there is two opinions, basically, around Pope Francis. One opinion is that he was very liberal and very left-leaning. The other opinion is that he was actually a lot more conservative in thought than a lot of people
He was the globalist.
Thought.
He was a globalist, period. Okay, let's continue.
On is really emblematic of the overall collapsing globalist system we see. And I say, God have mercy on his soul. I'm not going to judge him. But most Catholics I know absolutely think that he was a terrible, terrible pope. Now, moving on to who we know is pure evil. And that is Klaus Schwab, the protege of Henry Kissinger, the mouthpiece of the UN and the globalists. 2 years ago, they made the WEF co-equal with the UN under global.
Yeah, and that was something I didn't know, that they had made the WEF co-equals with the UN. So now that the World Economic Forum is collapsing because they're no longer having financing coming from the U.S., this is a very good thing.
Government, I mean, this is massive. So 6 months ago, he resigns as the chairman. That wasn't enough. Then he resigned off the main committee. Now he's completely resigned from the WEF today because he's so hated and nobody wants to be part of the organization and it's falling apart. It was the preeminent globalist organization just a few years ago. You will eat the bugs. And now it is falling down in front of everybody. And all of their policies around the world are being shut down. And the U.S. taxpayer money through USAID and the EPA, hundreds of millions a year, is being cut off. And so the mouth of the New World Order is discredited, is falling apart. And Klaus Schwab just said 2 years ago he would never resign. Now he's completely gone out of the organization.
And it looks like Pope Francis is gone, a globalist. It looks like Klaus Schwab is gone, a globalist. And Mark Carney's going to be the last hope. But that election in Canada seems to be falling apart.
Founded to be really the public face of the Bilderberg Group. So this is a very, very exciting time to be alive. It's emblematic, again, an archetype, an omen, everything else that's happening. I'll be on the air today at 11 a.m. Central covering this.
Okay. So it was a bad day for any progressive globalists that are still around.
Yes.
The final remaining infrastructure really seems to be falling apart. Trump is looking to pull out of Ukraine. Ukraine is the last hope for the globalists to keep their kind of global world order. They want to push that to a full-on war. And if they can't do it and they can't get Carney in there, that's going to be it for them, I think.
Maybe. I mean, they're still going to be around the edges. I mean, they came back, they were back, and then they came back, and then they left, and now they're back again. So,
yeah,
I mean,
but
there's always going to be those influences.
They don't have that power that they used to. People are well aware, so when they try to rise again, people are too
But the infrastructure they've built, I think, is
It's gone. Trump
I think there's still remnants.
There's remnants, no, without a doubt.
And not just in the States. Like, thinking about globally, I mean, Latin America and just the rest of America in general are still heavily influenced and still heavily have a lot of those key figures in position.
But it doesn't really matter. The only real remnants of a power structure they have is in Canada and is in the EU, and the EU is about to fall off a cliff. And if Mark Carney doesn't win in Canada, that's the end of that. And that's really the end of their power structure. They will have a remnants without a doubt, but it's like somebody that just lost a war. It's going to take them decades and decades to rebuild. So if a couple more little things can happen, the globalists are going to have a real tough time.
Yes.
Okay.
But do you want to go back to Pope Francis? Or?
Yeah, let's talk more about Pope Francis.
Yes.
And I want to talk about the conclave that might come up.
So yes, Pope Francis passed away from a stroke and heart failure, the Vatican says. He has passed away aged 88. And he was the first Latin American Pope, and also the first Jesuit Pope, as Alex Jones reminded us.
Yeah, so the conclave is going to be coming up. We've talked about this a few times before now. Mm-hmm. And it looks like it's going to be a split conclave because Pope Francis was able to stack the cardinals. 83 or 87 of the 137 cardinals.
I said 36 or 37. I wasn't
sure. 83 or 87 of the current cardinals that are in power were personally appointed by Pope Francis. So he was really trying to stack the deck for this conclave before he passed away. Also, there was only supposed to be 120 total cardinals. Pope Francis went well over that total, but as he kept appointing cardinals, there's 137 total cardinals now when there's only supposed to be 120. They need a 2/3 majority to appoint the next pope. They have 83 or 87 that were personally appointed by Francis, like I said. So it looks like they almost have the numbers. But they do have two conservative cardinals that are going to come up, one or two dramatically progressive liberal globalist cardinals, and they say they have one that's moderate, but he's from Canada, and I don't think he is very moderate. But
if he's from Canada, he's not going to be.
He's the moderate one they kind of put up,
and it's kind of going to be. I mean, like the movie, of course, all of this is speculation because it's a closed door event, but I mean there are a lot of things that leak through the cracks of the Vatican. But yes, I mean it also depends how long it takes. It depends, like if it takes days and days or even weeks, that means that there is infighting probably. If it's really quick, that could also mean that it was more controlled than people want to believe. So
yeah, well that's what kind of
the length of it is going to be very interesting.
That's what I wanted to kind of talk about because not even just the length of the conclave, but when it actually starts. By canon law, it has to start within 15 to 20 days. The problem is they may want to try to delay it 31 days because if they can delay it with 31 days, they can exclude one of the top conservative cardinals from Africa because he's about to turn 80. And if he turns 80, he's no longer qualified to be pope. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that means...
So it is kind of like the movie.
So I don't know if that means... If the conclave starts and he's in the conclave, then he's permanently eligible, or if they can extend the conclave out.
So when he gets like nominated and
he'll be too old.
Crowned.
So I'm not too sure how that's going to work, but there is already a lot of talk. They want to try to delay the conclave as long as possible.
So yeah, I mean, the length of it itself and when it starts, I'm guessing, will be something that most people have to stay on top of.
And
if you're interested. And once again, I'll mention it in English as well. Neither of us are religious, me of any kind, but
I'm very pro. I may not be religious myself, but I'm very pro-religion, very pro.
Yes, the importance of.
I see the importance of a non-moving moral standard, and religion is the only thing that really offers that. So even though I'm non-religious, I wouldn't mind a religious rule set in society.
Yes.
Okay, I have one more clip, and this is a conservative pope, and I think a lot of traditionalists want a cardinal like this to be pope. Okay. So this may be the pope from Hungary. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll listen to it really quick. It's a bit shorter than the Alex Jones clip, I think. It's
also the blinds.
Oh, I like it like that because I want to see the reflection.
Yes, this is very serious. Now we're witnessing an invasion. They are not refugees. No, this is an invasion of mass Islamization of Europe, which already went on for at minimum 50, 60 years, the Islamization in Europe. But now it is in mass. It is very evident. And so this is a global political agenda by the powerful of the world to
Okay, and that was that clip, and I think that's kind of what a lot of conservatives want to have in the Vatican, because what we currently had was Pope.
You mean someone that speaks against it?
Speaks against it, yeah, because Pope Francis was all about merging all these religions together. It was crazy.
Well, not all about merging, but like yes,
he was celebrating. He was celebrating Islamic holidays and talking about him more than he was his own religious holidays. At certain points, it was a little crazy.
Yes, similar to King Charles.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I think that's it for the Pope. Or do you want to move on?
Let me see if anybody said anything. Rafa says that what there is said about Pope Francis isn't a lie, but it's exaggerated in his opinion. And I also read it in Spanish. He had said that. And also Walker says, it's for the good of the live guide to not use your stupid
No, we're going to continue to use it.
No.
That's just because you spoke up against it and everybody likes you. So
no, it's because it is probably tripping up Rumble. Are you on BLE?
No.
Okay. So in other news, completely different news. No, hold on. Justin Bieber continues to cause concern amidst his fans and not his fans as well.
Yeah, so this was pretty interesting because he did not look the best. He's at Coachella. Obviously, he's using a lot of different substances and things like this, but he's not a young kid anymore. He has a kid at home, a newborn kid. The kid's only 7 months old. His wife wasn't seen at Coachella, so she's obviously...
Which is weird because she's always there. I think she was there for the first weekend. Maybe they were taking turns with the baby. Because this was the second weekend of Coachella.
I don't know if they should be taking turns with the baby. They should be home with the baby right now. And
well, yes.
I had a theory about Justin Bieber, but maybe we can take a look at what I'm talking about before we keep going.
Sure. This video or? Because there's probably music we can't play.
Okay, I have a video as well. So do you want this one or that one?
So he just looked kind of out of it.
Not in this video, no. In this video, he didn't look out of it.
He does. He can barely
so let's take a look at the video I had. I'll mute the sound for that.
Okay. Yeah, that was the next one I was going to play.
So right here especially, he does not
He looks like he belongs on the street in Vancouver.
Good. I mean, it looks like he's on some kind of downer. Maybe fentanyl or something like that.
We can't say that.
Right. Oh, okay. Well, I just did. Okay, that's good. And it's one thing if you're just having a good time and you're young, and he's been through that for how long now? His life is absolutely falling apart. I understand there's this trial coming out. There's probably videos of him going to be in there, but I don't really think a video...
That's your theory.
Is going to be enough to make him spiral in the way he is. I think at one point he was a victim, and they probably turned him into a victimizer because of any kind of if any kind of trial came up like this, they didn't want him testifying against them. So if they have him on video doing something to somebody else,
there's blackmail evidence against him.
Yeah,
probably
that's my theory.
To do with P. Diddy or Sean Combs.
Yeah. Well,
and activities.
And you were a lot less concerned about all this, but...
Well, I think there's obviously going to be a lot of theories and speculations about him. He's a public figure. He's been a public figure since he was little. So, I mean, of course, there's going to be a lot of rumors swirling around, but we've also seen him spiral before. And what I'm most concerned about is, if you don't know the name, Luann Taylor, who is basically the person, she's a lawyer, a media person for celebrities. She's the one that has been able to put a lot of other celebrities in conservatorships, like Britney Spears, for example. She took over the Britney Spears estate and also convinced everybody else surrounding Britney Spears to put her in the conservatorship, where she was actually not free at all to do anything. She was essentially trapped in a gilded cage, and so have been a lot of other celebrities like Bam Margera, and Luann Taylor's name is starting to pop up around Justin Bieber as well. So I would just caution to say, and it also happened with Kanye. She was involved with the whole Kanye thing as well.
The Kanye story
and
was crazy.
And they're all conservatorship kids. I would say like conservatorship celebrities, or at least where there has been an attempt to put them in a conservatorship, which means somebody else is completely in charge of their affairs, their estate, and even their own person. So they lose their rights.
Well,
basically.
And he's in a real bad position because he came up at such a young age, and he was surrounded by just people that wanted to manipulate him. He really didn't have a time before stardom where he could make a good set of friends that were based in reality. He's just got a bunch of people that are around him that are like vultures trying to use him. The best possible person he may have around him is actually his wife's father, but even he's a little bit crazy. But what?
Very.
Yeah, well, what was his name again?
Is it Alec Baldwin?
No, not
the
Alec
other
Baldwin. Not Billy Baldwin either.
They're all crazy. That's the thing. That whole family.
Yeah, but at least he's the one Christian in the family, and he's a pretty hardcore Christian.
But
although
the church that Justin Bieber is involved with is essentially one of those
mega churches.
Mega churches that are not good, that take money from people, but also that lead them to decisions that are not actually within the word of the Lord.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on him and what does happen. There's all kinds of theories out there right now, but we'll see what happens.
Yes.
Okay.
You always end up with that.
And I always come back to the story in a week or 2 weeks, so we always do see what happens.
Yes. And then you had this one up about Anne Hathaway, who apparently never ages. Of course, there's going to be rumors surrounding tweakments that she could have done. But just what is the whole conversation that you wanted to...
The conversation is she's getting younger as she ages, but her face is becoming...
They're all starting to look the same.
They all start to look the same, and they have much less facial expressions. Their face barely moves.
So this is Anne Hathaway.
It looks a lot weirder on video here than in a photo. In a photo, your face looks good when it doesn't move. Mm-hmm. In a video, it just kind of looks a little strange. Maybe you can go back to her.
I know. Hold on.
And just pause it.
Doesn't want to load.
And she's starting to look a lot like Megan Fox.
Well, it's not just Megan Fox. It's all of them start to resemble each other because, of course, they go to the same specialists that do tweakments and facelifts. And right now there's apparently a huge trend in Hollywood of even very young artists getting like full-on facelifts, like Kylie Jenner, for example, who filled her face with fillers and Botox and everything. Then she had them essentially melted away. She looked like she was a melting candle. And now all of a sudden she looks completely young again.
Also they're not doing full facelifts in Hollywood anymore. They have these new facelifts where they just do part of your face so it doesn't look like your whole face is stretched.
Yes.
And it looks a lot more, I guess you would say natural for a photo, but I think because all the Botox on top of that, man, it just looks a little strange. And she's still a good-looking girl, don't get me wrong, but she doesn't look like Anne Hathaway anymore.
No. And the main thing would just be to say, like, no normal person looks like that, not even they look like that. And I think it changes the way people view normal people on the street nowadays, or people that haven't had anything done or have actual facial expressions. We've become so accustomed to all of these Instagram faces or faces full of filler, Botox, etc., that when you see like a regular person, I think that also affects how attraction right now is working amongst younger people, especially. And especially girls starting to think that they need to get Botox at 22, 23, just preventatively, while that will actually end up ruining their faces and making it harder for them as they age, needing more procedures.
It's really distorting the youth's mind, and the youth are the most easily influenced by all this. So then they go for procedures at ages they don't need to go for. And that's not just women. As far as men go, young men are getting on steroids, TRT, all kinds of things at a very young age when their testosterone levels are normal and they don't need that stuff.
Although there has been a decline in testosterone, partly due to all of the environmental hormonal disruptors, as they're called, that we interact with day to day, and a lot of people don't even know about.
Yeah. Okay, well...
that was like a barrage of everything. But yes.
Okay, so we can go to the next story. I just wanted to mention Anne Hathaway. So, this is one of our favorites.
Yeah, we keep talking about her because she keeps wanting her name out there.
She's one of the most hated celebrities around.
And she might not want her name out for this. So Meghan Markle accused of ripping off children's book series for animated Netflix show.
And this is just coming back up. This actually happened back in 2021, but the details of this weren't really known, and it's starting to leak out what actually happened now. She had maybe I can go to my notes here a little bit.
Do you want me to read a bit of it?
Yeah, read a little bit of it.
So Meghan Markle is in a copycat crisis, not just with Gwyneth Paltrow, but everyone else.
And this is like the fourth time that she's been involved in plagiarism.
Yes.
For one thing or another, whether it was their TV series, whether it was her book or other things.
Even her charity was found in with issues.
And one of her logos for one of her companies also ripped off.
Yes, from a real estate company. But yes, the Duchess of Sussex, 43, is facing plagiarism claims from British children's author Mel Elliott. Elliott told the Daily Mail Friday that she sent legal letters to Markle over Markle's cancelled animated Netflix show Pearl, bearing striking similarities to Elliott's Pearl Power books. And there she is. Okay, why are there so many pictures of her?
And this happened...
God. But let's see what the author actually thinks. Meghan is a feminist who sticks up for other women, so I was disappointed and confused to see how similar Netflix's proposed show Pearl was to my own Pearl Power, who had been created 7 years earlier. Elliott told the outlet, of course, I can't know if anyone on her team had seen it and been inspired by it, but the similarities were way too great for me to ignore, she added. So, of course, it's a feminist author praising a feminist Meghan Markle.
Well, and the name of Meghan's children's book was actually Pearl. So it's very...
Well, the show.
Yeah.
So as part of Markle and Prince Harry's $100 million deal with Netflix, I don't know why Netflix keeps throwing money at them.
It was a mass contract they gave them. They gave them $100 million for multiple series, and now they're regretting it and wishing they could have got out.
Yes. Was announced in development at the streamer in July 2021, with Markle serving as an executive producer alongside Elton John's husband, David Furnish. Of course, the series was said to be about a 12-year-old girl who learns to step into her power and finds inspiration from influential women throughout history. But Pearl ended up being scrapped, as Netflix claimed at the time they were no longer prioritizing animation or Meghan Markle.
Yeah, well, I think they just wanted to avoid the lawsuit overall. And that was the big thing here. So
because they probably noticed before even the author came out and actually sent
I was reading more about this, and there was a lot of similarities. So they just scrapped it.
It's just good for the world that there's no more feminist propaganda aimed at little girls.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if there's not any more feminist propaganda.
No, but I'm saying the less there is, the better.
Yeah.
Well, so it's good that it got canceled in general.
Now, if Disney could shift, that would be even better.
That's not going to happen.
But Netflix must have thought they had struck gold. I mean, she's a previous actress. She's married to a prince. They're moving to America now.
They had
on paper, they had they were globalists. They were really in line with the liberal issues.
She had the whole race card as well that she used quite a lot, especially when she was cooking her first child.
And man, she's really taken the brunt of this cultural shift because,
because she's she's a perfect example of what happens when things get away from you.
Yeah.
But speaking of Disney, because you mentioned Disney, apparently they're trying to court whoever they can now to get to the parks, because the parks are not doing well. And now for 2026, apparently they're offering even free dining for UK residents because they're also worried that Universal's new park has been announced for the UK. So now they're trying to bring all the UK citizens to their Orlando park.
So yeah, this is a 60 to 70% discount they're giving plus free food, and the food is anywhere from $100 to $200 a day American typically.
So it's the dining plan.
So this is insane, and I think the reason they're targeting UK residents is because people from the UK and the EU are extremely liberal.
No, but also Universal just announced they're building a park in the UK.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but they can't go target conservative audiences right now. So they can't go to they can't go to a conservative country and target people, U.S. citizens. It's not going to work. They want to target a progressive bunch of people.
Sure. I think it has more to do with Universal opening a park.
I don't. Because I think a lot of families right now are looking at Universal and looking at it as family friendly. Especially in America, Disney has really burned their brand. They were having a drop before Universal opened. So let's not get it twisted. People do not like Disney, and they're avoiding Disney right now. You can even see that with every Disney movie that comes out.
Yes, and also the parks are losing a lot of people going. Maybe they think that nobody in the UK is aware of what they've done to their brand, but I think people are.
Well, but that's kind of the point. Even if people in the UK know what they've done to their brand, they might actually approve of it because they are liberal and they are progressive. So it's an audience you can target where even if they do know, they still will come.
Sure. I think that's a bit too Machiavellian and too.
I don't think so.
I don't think Disney is super. They're just trying to court whoever will go to their parks.
No, they're not, because they're specifically only courting the UK, and they usually would court a discount like this with local residents, because I used to live by Disneyland, so local residents is what they wanted, but they can't court local people.
Because right
in the
now
US
local people
anymore.
can go to Epic.
And not just Epic. There was a backlash before this.
Yes.
Okay.
And they were losing people in the parks anyways. Oh, yeah, you wanted to talk about this movie. So Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan's Sinners takes box office crown with $48 million this past weekend.
Yeah, and let's just try to switch the angle so when I watch it back, it's just not the same angle every time. I'm trying to do the other show, so I need to know the angles. Okay, the Sinners movie came out. It ended up being, when I watched the reviews, really good. And now there's a backlash in the mainstream media against this movie. The New York Times as well as Vanity have both written kind of these hit pieces against the movie, saying, oh yeah, it had an amazing opening weekend, but it cost $90 million to make. They probably won't recoup the money. So because it's kind of outside of the mainstream, and they kind of went on their own. They weren't backed by a traditional IP that had already been made. This is the largest grossing non-IP movie or original IP movie of this decade for an opening weekend. So this is kind of why I put it in here. You're like, oh, why are you putting Sinners in here? A lot of people had a lot of good things to say about this thing as well. When I watched the trailer, I was pleasantly surprised, and yeah.
And it's interesting because it is an R-rated movie, so it's interesting to see the numbers.
Yeah, a lot of people are comparing this to Quentin Tarantino's Dusk Till Dawn. Not that it's necessarily that movie, but it's in that same kind of vein. And it's done really well as well. So
we haven't seen it,
but a lot of people thought this movie cost about $45 million to make, so they were actually pretty surprised. It did cost $90. It will definitely be making the money back. So, yeah. Okay.
And speaking of someone that's still involved in his IP and tries to grasp onto it as much as he can, Mark Hamill from Star Wars came back to X after decrying it for who knows how long. And he said, thanks for noticing I'm back, Colonel May. I tried an information blackout to preserve my sanity. It didn't work. But actually, he ran away scared from X when Elon bought it. And then he was trying to promote Blue Sky, which was this alternative. But as now a lot of people have realized, Blue Sky became a cesspool as well.
Okay, yeah. And who owns Blue Sky again?
Facebook? No.
I wasn't sure if it was Amazon, Jeff Bezos, but I wasn't.
No, it's, I'm pretty sure.
It was one of the big players. It could have been Google or Jeff Bezos. Just type it up real quick. But what happened here is when Trump got into office, all these liberals just fled X because Elon had bought X and they thought it was too conservative.
No, Jay Garber. Jay Grabber.
Yeah, but what company is it connected with?
No.
Okay. Well,
you're thinking of the Facebook one.
No. Okay. Yes. Well.
Sure.
Okay. Why don't you talk
Threads.
about this?
You were thinking about Threads. No, you.
Go, I'm done.
I don't know anything about the story, so you
okay,
talk
we can
about
go
it.
to the next story.
Oh, see, this is why.
Okay,
I'll
talk about it if you have nothing to say about it. There was a conservative site like this before Elon had bought X. Do you remember the name of that site?
It's not Mammoth, but it's something like that.
Yeah, well, there was a conservative site all the conservatives kind of went to, and they were really trying to prop it up.
Truth Social, too.
It really actually worked, but then there was not only government interference, but there was private interference by the not cell phone companies, by the app companies. It was Android and Apple banned it from their store. So as soon as they got banned from the store, the stock price shot down and didn't really have hope of succeeding after that. And that's kind of how they shut that down. Blue Sky was kind of the progressive liberal globalist crowd's hope to have an alternative, but it's completely failed, and now they're all coming back to X. So. And all the advertisers are coming back to X now, too. Yes. So it does have long-term viability at this point now.
Because it was such a well-established platform, even before Elon bought it, like everything was already there. So he just kind of bettered the infrastructure. In some ways he made it worse, I will admit.
No. There was a point where all the advertisers had fled. And
yes.
Yeah, so there was a chance it was going to fail.
And they're slowly coming back.
But they're back now in a big way.
Yes.
And he's making the platform much more versatile now, X, because he's adding video and other things into that. So,
quickly, Rafa says too much Adreno for Justin Bieber. And then he also says, Guy, if Disney was that smart, they would just stop putting leftist propaganda in the movies, which is what I say. Parler is the one we were thinking of. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, Parler was the one. Who said that, Rafa?
Yes,
oh, that was good. You remembered. I didn't know outside of the U.S. if people were going to actually know that.
Yeah.
So, no, at the time, it was big within the conservative circles within the U.S. Even within Canada, people didn't know what I was talking about when we were up there.
Well, because Canada is a hole of dis and misinformation, as they like to call it. But speaking of, FCC chair warns Europe, choose Starlink over China. With European countries looking for alternatives to Starlink, Brendan Carr urges them to avoid Chinese solutions, which he calls the real long-term boogie. And, I mean, we do know that Europe, especially the UK, has given a lot of its infrastructure to China to manage, not least their whole energy grid is now managed by China, and also a lot of their steel plants. And mills.
And a good thing for this is because this space race and satellite race is just now emerging. So this is really a new domain that these countries are going to have to pick. But if we look into prior history, what we really want to look is Huawei. Huawei came in there and basically gave it at cost or even lost money, and then they dominated the entire U.S. infrastructure, the Canadian infrastructure. They still dominate the Mexican infrastructure here. Yes. They also dominate they basically dominate.
Well, they're trying to dominate
the world infrastructure because nobody can compete with their cost. They're willing to do it at a loss, but that gave them backdoors into a lot of these different systems and really compromised these governments.
Yeah, and I mean Huawei or Chinese solutions end up not being as workable as the local ones.
Well, yeah, now the U.S. is spending billions and billions of dollars trying to weed out this Huawei technology that is just all over, especially the East Coast.
But do you think, no thank you, do you think that the FCC chair or the U.S. Government essentially should be telling Europe what to do?
Well, yeah, this is going to be huge. This is, I think Europe may know it, but with Trump coming here threatening tariffs, they might want to just stick it to them and go with China for this. Mm-hmm. But in the long term, they're going to suffer the consequences. They're going to suffer the consequences.
Especially because, not least of what I keep saying, like I don't think the Chinese solution is always the
right solution.
Like, well done.
The right solution is going to be the EU needs to make their own infrastructure. And again, they don't. They actually sell off their grandfathered companies to foreign national companies in India and in China. And Germany has this huge plan to economize their economy, they're calling it, where they want to break up all their big brands into multiple small brands and then sell off each small brand to help surge their economy on paper. But really, in the long term, it's going to collapse them because they're not going to own any of it.
Yes. Well, I mean, as they say, and as Klaus Schwab used to say, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Maybe that's the plan for Europe.
For the governments, yes.
Then quickly... So Canadians, as I keep saying, and nobody believes me, but apparently the government cannot spend its way out of the fertility crisis in Canada, and Canada now has one of the lowest birth rates in the world, and there needs to be other ways to address it, according to this article, of course, but
okay,
I had a statistic here. Let me find it. There we go. Canada's birth rate dropped to a historic low of 1.6 children per woman in 2023, according to Statistics Canada. And also we know that Statistics Canada doesn't keep, statistics for every year because they're embarrassed by it. And Canada also gives a lot of incentives, let's just say, or tries to, for families, not just tax breaks, but also just, money itself. So the caregiver tax credit in Canada is up to $8,000 per child. Hundreds of dollars a month in the form of Canada Child Benefits, subsidized daycare if they can get a spot, and that's also another problem. Paid time off work in some provinces, and then play centers, but all of it has failed.
None of this matters. So any monetary thing the government is going to do is not going to increase the birth rate.
Yes.
And this is the thing. And when you look around the world, it's the poorest countries that are having the most kids. So this would tell you that it has a lot more to do with religion, moral values, family values, if you want to increase the family.
But in Canada, it's also very expensive.
Well, no, I understand it's very expensive, but if you're going to try to fix it by saying we need to make it more affordable, you have to look around the world. That didn't work. And all the countries that have given those benefits, there are a lot of countries in Europe that have given the benefits.
And Korea, Japan.
Their birth rates went even more down. And I agree with you. It is too expensive to have kids, and I think it would help. But if we just look at statistics, it's not helping.
And it's also like the environment, like not just political, but the social environment, what's happening with immigration as well in Canada. It's not conducive to even want to have children, and then put on top all the ideological stuff that's like kids are barraged with, and the parents, even though they might be super liberal, might not want for their own children, aside from not being able to afford a house, aside from not being able to afford groceries, and the rat race that is Canada. I mean, people in Canada just basically work to live, and that's all they do.
Well, the more religious the society, the more babies they're going to have. And as the Western society got more secular, that's when you really seen the birth rates go downhill. And when they got away from religious values, that's also when it went downhill. And a lot of people might want to point to China and say, well, what about the 1.4 billion people in China? They're not religious. Religions. Well, but the fact is, we talked about that the other day, and they might not have that 1.4 billion. A matter of fact, it's almost conclusive they don't have the 1.4 billion. It was said before COVID they had 800 million, and that COVID was directly targeted at them, and they may be down to 400 to 500 million people, which is hard to believe, but I definitely know they're not at 1.4 billion.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, of course, there's a whole conversation around feminism as well, liberal values, and the destruction of even wanting to have a family or waiting too long. I mean, just in general, the people I know in Canada have this issue where they're like, I don't have enough money, I can't have kids, and it might be better if we just wait a few more years and see what happens. But this eternal waiting and the lies that have been told to women about their own bodies and how for how long they can be fertile, as I keep talking about, this is just another example of the consequences of that.
Well, this was really death by 1,000 needles to the West, and the globalists really wanted to reduce the population, so they America really put that one-child policy in China.
Sorry.
So they went over there and negotiated that one-child policy, and China bought onto it because it was going to mean a boom to their economy with that negotiation that went on with the U.S. at the time.
And then also, of course, the importation of a growing population through importing them into the country instead of making them the country themselves.
Well, I was going to say this is death by 1,000 cuts to Western populations. Like everything the globalists are putting out there in the media, in society, benefits to society, whether it's easy divorce, no-fault divorce, easy to get divorced, women have all the rights to the children. Things like this really are affecting population and things like this with this in the West, and especially media. Media is all about girl boss. You don't see anything about the family. When you do see the family, it's very often negative and things like this.
And quickly, I was just reading comment from Rafa, who says, any information about Shen Yun? It's like a Chinese music show. Dad criticizes the CCP. They were on the news recently, and I know a lot about it because they're
huge in Vancouver.
They're huge everywhere. Like there's even a lot of billboards here in Mexico City, and they're everywhere worldwide. And there has been a lot of investigations into them because there might be it's essentially a network of exploitation, cult-like, some would say. And it's been in the news recently. I just looked it up again to remind myself what he was talking about. But they're in the news recently for this whole network of exploitation being further discovered, let's just say. But it's been a known secret, and it's almost like a religion, basically. It's all based around its founder. I don't remember the name of his name, but they're essentially people that left China, and yes, they criticize the CCP, but at the same time, they themselves have become essentially a cult that's their main goal is to try to take over, all done through, and the way they get money is through these shows, but to create these shows, all the dancers, all the people on stage, there's many of them, it's usually around 180 dancers or something crazy like that, are in exploitative situations. They're not allowed food, they're not allowed resting days, and they have to train on broken bones. And they have come out, some of the people that have been able to escape the cult have come out to talk about it.
Okay, let's go into the last story about the bear here.
I'm going to have to talk about it.
Just leave it here and we'll talk about it here. I just want to have the shot.
This is going to make me
I know,
dizzy.
I need the shot of twice so I can properly edit things, Natalia.
Edit what? Yeah, but I have an article about it. Okay, fine. Man arrested for ending the life of a bear that invaded his home with his kids inside.
So yeah, this was interesting because we hear constantly in Canada about intruders coming into the home and you're not allowed to shoot them or defend yourself.
To end their lives.
Or otherwise you'll be prosecuted. But when it's a bear, now this didn't happen in Canada, but I'm just saying.
It happened in Connecticut.
These progressive policies where you can't, there's kids in the home. The man had a weapon. He should have a right to defend his house. And I don't care if the animal's even endangered. I'm not sure if it is endangered in Connecticut. So I don't think it is. He should have the right to defend his home and his kids. What do you think about this?
And apparently there's been an increase in bear sightings and bear issues within Connecticut. So that might mean that they're getting used to humans, which is not good for either sides. So I'm just trying to quickly read up on it. So a 2023 Connecticut law permits residents to end the life of a bear in self-defense if it is about to harm a person or a pet, or if it enters an occupied building. The man that is now arrested argues that the animal posed an immediate threat when it walked into his garage where his two kids were playing. He said, "We were all threatened. It entered our home." The bear reportedly grabbed some bags before being chased up a tree by the family's dog. So at least it didn't try to go after the dog. Topics, which is the name of the man that is arrested, said the bear wasn't backing down, prompting him to fire warning stuff towards the bear. The bear then ran into the woods. It wasn't until the following day that he realized he had actually struck the bear with one of those warning things. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, so a neighbor discovered the lifeless bear and reported it to police. 2 weeks later, the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection charged the man with the illegal taking of a bear.
Well, we'll see how that winds up in court, but he does have a real right to self-defense, but he's going to need the testimony of his kids, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I mean, depends on how little the kids are.
Well, yeah.
Because they might be little.
Okay, well.
We're going to use this one just to see if if RUMBLE doesn't,
I'm not complaining. Rumble has been freezing the whole show, though.
Oh, it has?
Yeah, so.
So it might be them issue, not an us
no,
issue.
it's an us issue because of the way we're connected.
So should we try a different way?
We definitely need to in the start anyway.
Okay. So to everybody on YouTube, thank you. We're going to head over to RUMBLE, whose name we've kept saying throughout the stream. So
and we talk about politics over there if there are any new viewers. So a lot of the stuff we talked about now was more appropriate for YouTube and it was more culture based.
Yes. So that's what we usually do, more pop culture and entertainment stuff that YouTube likes, and then we go over to RUMBLE. So we'll see you over there, and thank you so much to everybody here on YouTube. And I'm ending it now.
And the first story is going to be